we've looked at the occupying and we looked at the purifying, and now let's look at the qualifying. Notice first of all the clarifying. Leaders understand that they are not indispensable. Leaders understand that they are not indispensable. Leaders understand that God can get along without us. The minute one feels that it cannot be done without us is the moment where we cross the line, where we're starting to perhaps step into God's territory, to think that whatever God is getting ready to do, that God cannot do it without us. I think it's Beyonce says, "Don't ever think that you're indispensable." I think that's what
They're
irreplaceable.
right. They're
That's what it is. She said, "Don't ever think you're irreplaceable." To the left, to the left. Come on, somebody. So
hallelujah.
there's a clarifying. Remember, Jesus said, he said, if we do not pray, the rocks will cry out. So leaders understand that we are not indispensable. And not only is there the clarifying, but notice also the certifying. Leaders are clear about their capabilities. While in the presence of God, uh, in the midst of this vision, Isaiah realizes that I may not be everything God is calling me to be. I have some faults, I have some failures. Woe is me, he says. I'm a man of unclean lips, dwelling among people who also have unclean lips. He understands his shortcomings, talking about Isaiah, but he also understands his value at the same time. Um, the psalmist says in 139 that this, again, one place it says we're no more than filthy rags in God's sight, but at the same time, the psalmist says that we are wonderfully and fearfully made. Uh, this we call this how we're made, in terms of our blood vessels and how the blood flows in and flows out, and how our eyes can see and focus. And we call this intelligent design, how we can look at something and then in the eye, it flips it upside down, and but we're able to figure it out in our brain, and we take letters and words and make sentences. Intelligent design. We are fearfully, wonderfully, and fearfully made. We may be no more than filthy rags in the sight of God, but also there God assigns to us value too. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's clarifying, certifying, and then there is complying. Leaders are clear about their capabilities. They understand their shortcomings, their limitations, but also um, there is complying. Leaders understand that what we do for God, it is a choice. Someone alluded to it a few minutes ago. God gives us freedom. He gives us the freedom of choice, and God will not override our free will. Linda, that was a great example of how you had to knock on the door, even though you gave permission uh, for someone else to stay in the house. God will not override our free will. It is a choice. That this is God says, who shall I send, and who will go for us? It is a choice. it is a choice. Now, of course, now Moses and some of the other folk, they tried to get out of it, but uh, God will not override our free will. Does God need us? Uh, do we need God? Yes, absolutely. Does God need us? Um, Scripture tells us, ask the question, how shall they hear? And I think this is Isaiah too, but it's also in the New Testament. How shall they hear without the preacher? Isaiah asked the question, how shall they hear of whom they've never heard? In the New Testament, it says, how shall they hear without the preacher? You know, you got floods, rain, tornadoes, fires, all these things the universe is speaking loudly, but how shall they hear? That's the question. Without the preacher, how shall the preacher preach? Woo, man, I'm getting in trouble this morning. Unless they be sent. I close this morning with the thought song by Bishop Paul Morton. You probably heard it before. It says, Lord, whatever you're doing in this season, please.
Don't do me.
I see somebody moving toward the microphone.